So back in Wednesday, President Bongbong Marcos postponed once again the Bangsamoro parliamentary elections from the 30th of March to the 14th of September. So that's around 6 months. And I have some criticisms of postponing the Bangsamoro elections, but looking more into why they are postponed, I kind of get why it keeps getting postponed. So, not even I, someone who lives in Mindanao, knows everything about the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. And there's some things that we should all know about the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Now, as a Christian in Mindanao, I am what is considered a descendant of the migrant settlers because that's where the real conflict started to come in. It's the Philippine government back then. I think the 1950s, 1960s, somewhere around those. Do correct me in the comments if I get any of these wrong. But during that time, the Philippine government encouraged Christians from Luzon and Visayas to move to Mindanao, which displaced the millions of Muslims and indigenous peoples who have already been living there for centuries, if not thousands of years. And so, back in the 1990s, there was this peace deal put in place between the Moro National Liberation Front and the Philippine government, which then created the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao. This was the, how you say, the original regional thing set in place to, make a peace deal between the Muslims and the national government. And let's just say that it failed miserably because there was this criticisms there were these criticisms of the original autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao. So there was the weak autonomy, so there were still a lot of things centralized to the national government. There was corruption. It was apparently rampant during that time. There was no real control over armed conflict because not a lot of groups were included, not even the Lumads, the non-Moro indigenous peoples, and not even the Moro Islamic Liberation Front was included in the peace deal in any way. There was also exclusion of key stakeholders, I just mentioned earlier. Persistent poverty and underdevelopment, so there was not a lot of investment. It remained one of the poorest regions in the nation, and it was still low in literacy, infrastructure, and investment. There was also weak institutional design. It was a presidential style system, like how we elect our national government, which does encourage personality politics. It's something that we should fix as a nation with a presidential system. There were also weak checks and balances and a limited capacity to enforce policies. There was also a lack of trust and legitimacy. Many locals did not even trust the ARMM leadership. The rebels didn't even see it as a real solution, and the national government did not fully empower the region. So the solution to the failed ARMM region thing was that there was a plebiscite. Yes, it's pronounced plebiscite. Or if you live outside the Philippines, a referendum to implement or to ratify the Bangsamoro Organic Law, which would then create the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. So these were the areas that voted on the plebiscite. I will also include the areas that voted no. So let's first include the core bangsamoro areas. These were already. I will mention first the provinces that are already part of the old ARMM: Maguindanao, Lanao del Sur, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, and Basilan, except Isabela City. These areas voted as a whole whether to adopt the Bangsamoro Organic Law. Maguindanao, Lanao del Sur, and Basilan. I think those are the ones that voted yes. I will check. Then there were also these cities that voted on the plebiscite: Cotabato City and Isabela City. Cotabato City voted yes, and Isabela City voted no. Yes, Isabela City is in Basilan, but it chose to stay out of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. There were also these barangays in North Cotabato. 63 of them voted. 24 voted no, but 39 voted yes. And then Lanao del Norte, the entire province, was voting on this one, and the majority voted no. I don't think Iligan City was included in the plebiscite. So the ones who voted were the 5 ARMM provinces: Cotabato City, Isabela City, the 63 barangays, and the entirety of Lanao del Norte. So, after the plebiscite, the areas that were included were all of the ARMM provinces except Sulu. Then there was the There's also Cotabato City. I'm reading complicated in Cotabato on like separate lines, but they're on the same column, so that's why I keep, saying complicated instead of Cotabato. But anyways, all of the ARMM provinces except Sulu. There's also Cotabato City, and then the 39 barangays from North Cotabato. So there's a special note here. Sulu voted against the plebiscite. It did not want to join the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. However, it was still included because the majority of the original ARMM provinces voted yes, which then led to a Supreme Court ruling questioning its inclusion. It's a bit of a complex legal issue. But the Supreme Court did respect the decision of the residents of Sulu. It did not want to join the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, so it will be excluded in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. So the final composition of the entirety of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao will be both Maguindanaos: Maguindanao del Norte, Maguindanao del Sur, then Basilan, Tawi-Tawi, Cotabato City, and then 39 barangays in North Cotabato. Is it? Yep, 39 barangays. And finally, I will also talk a bit about how elections will work in the Bangsamoro. I will just, give you a quick rundown. Okay, so the Bangsamoro Parliament, yes, they are using a parliamentary system which is novel in the Philippines. The Bangsamoro Parliament will have 80 seats total. Exactly half of that, 40 of them, will be elected via proportional representation. 32 of them will come from districts, and 8 of them are sectoral representatives. So there will be 2 systems used in the Bangsamoro Parliament, even though there are 3 ways to be a part of the Parliament. I will explain later. So first will be the party list proportional representation. I think this is closed list, like the parties themselves will determine the order on how or who will be put first, will be put second, will be put third in the rankings in order to see who will occupy those parliamentary seats. First is closed list proportional representation. You will vote for a party, not a person. And the key thing about proportional representation is in the name itself. If you get a set amount of votes, that will be the set amount of seats that you get. Like, say, if you get 30% of the vote in a 40-seat parliament, or in a 40-seat tier of the parliament, you will get around 12 seats. If you get 20%, you get around 8 seats. This will encourage ideology-based politics and multi-party systems. We already have multi-party systems since our politics here is very fragmented. But anyways, let's move on to first past the post. This will be the district representatives. You or your area, the district where you're from, will elect one representative. You just vote for a single candidate, and whoever gets the most votes wins. This is the same as the Philippine House of Representatives, and more or less the Philippine Senate. Since the Senate, you elect multiple people. In the House of Representatives, you just elect one in a single district that you live in. So you will have 2 choices, or really 2 votes. One for your district representative and one for your party representative, or for your party to represent you in the parliament. And then there's the sectoral representatives. These are quite special, I must say. I must say. There you go. The sectoral members of the Bangsamoro Parliament are appointed by the President of the Philippines upon recommendation of the Bangsamoro leadership, primarily the interim government led by the MILF. The mandatory sectors, according to the Bangsamoro Organic Law, include women, youth, traditional leaders, ulama, Islamic scholars, and the indigenous peoples, the non-Moro, the Lumads, any or all indigenous peoples who are not Muslims or Moros. So I will mention 3 examples. There's Aida Silongan from the indigenous people sector, Nagib Sinarimbo, who has served in key roles, though more executive than sectoral, and Rashiduddin Parviz. Hopefully I'm pronouncing this correctly. Rashiduddin Parviz, who is the representative for the youth. And that is the very long, very boring breakdown on how Bangsamoro, or the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, works. I hope you enjoyed this. Apologies for the very long pauses, very unscripted timing. I have stuttered a lot. I've been making videos for so long and I still can't, do it. I still can't do this. Like, I do not have an acquired skill. Like, I still haven't learned much, even though I've been doing this for at least 6 years now. Almost 7. But anyways, I think that's it for this video. Apologies for the terrible mic. I'm relying on my loud voice for this one. And just, I'm really sorry about how this will turn out. Um, yeah. Oops. Anyways, if there was anything wrong that I have stated, do correct me in the comments down below. Until then, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.